Hello and welcome again to another edition of NSCAC's Behind the Bench webinar. My name is Adrian Field. I'm joining you from Toronto, Ontario. Live today, our first live interaction we have with Mr. Garry Monk from Philadelphia at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. All right, we're there on site with Mr. Valerio Roca as well. We have an exciting segment planned today. We're going to get into a deep dive with Garry, have some questions ready. So this, as all of our sessions are tremendously interactive, so feel free if you're in person there in Philadelphia to submit your questions. If you're joining us online from wherever you are in the world, you can write in to the chat, and we'll make sure that your question is answered. Okay, so before we officially kick things off, just a little bit of background about NSCAC, a fantastic volunteer-run organization, National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada. If you haven't heard of us before, if it's your first time interacting with us, a very warm welcome. Okay, we provide high-level coaching education content, exclusive member discounts, access, some even special treats and surprises with some new partnerships that we'll be thrilled to share with you today. But with all that said, visit our website, become a member, sign up. It's well worth your while. As I say, it's well worth it. Tremendous benefits. And with that, let's get into it. Perfect. Garry, I have to say, the title for today's webinar is Leading the Game: Insights into Management and Coaching with Garry Monk. So a pretty wide spectrum of everything that we're going to be covering today. I have a few questions, but let's make it a bit interactive. So anybody want to take this conversation, no problem. I know you have a wealth of experience and knowledge in so many facets of the game. But let's just start with a little bit of personal. So personal journey. I mean, what were the biggest mindset shifts you had to make from being a player to becoming a manager? I know you had a storied career through Swansea as a player. What did it take making that transition? If you want to talk a little bit about that to kick us off.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian, and thank you to everyone that's online that's watching. Obviously, being invited on to the NSCAC, fantastic organisation. And something that we're proud to be associated with at Soccer Profile. So it's a good question. I think so a bit of context, I played professionally for 18 years and then have now coached for the last 12 years, so that's 30 years in football. But that transition from player to manager, just to put it into context, which is quite a unique journey in the sense of I was a player one day and then it's like waking up the very next day after a phone call, and now you're going to be, of course, initially the interim manager, but then to go on to be the full-time manager. So I always ask it, imagine the Premier League now, especially at that level. It will be like watching one of the players today in the Premier League game, and then tomorrow the announcement is that they are the manager and they're now going to be the coach. I don't think that we're probably at that level ever see that again. I can't see that happening. So quite a unique transition in that sense. But what I thought was only going to be a couple of days of taking the team for training and waiting for the next manager to come in ended up being the next 18 months. So it was a bit of a mindset shift for myself. That initial period, which was really important, it was good. I had a discussion yesterday on a panel discussion, and I think because I was obviously in that change room, those players knew me very, very well. Obviously, they've seen me at my worst, at my best, everything that you can imagine. I had to make a decision. Am I now the manager, or am I still their teammate? So I had to get the balance right. So what I tried to be, because I've been club captain for the last probably previous 8 to 9 seasons before that, I thought it was important that I didn't try and act like a manager straight away. Again, because I didn't really know that I was going to be the permanent manager. I was just doing what the club had asked me to do, thinking it was just going to be a few days. But I was really conscious on just being the captain. The only difference was that I was the one that had to pick the team at the end of the week for each game. I explained that to the players straight away. So really, I wasn't trying to be a manager, head coach. I was just trying to be the captain, act like the captain, talk like the captain, but I've got to pick a team. And I think, to be fair to the players at the time, I think they respected that, understood the situation we were in. We were fighting relegation, and then managed to secure our safety with 13 games that I had to do it. We got some good results, got safe. And then it was only that summer where I then got given the job permanently, that's when the real mind shift came of, okay, now I am the proper manager. New players are going to be coming in. What do I need to look like to them? And then obviously the players that are already there as well, like how I need to come across to them. But definitely that initial bit was that transition was very difficult, but I think it helps me not acting like a manager initially.
Yeah, I mean, how quickly does it go? I mean, I imagine as team captain, as you were, popular, well liked by everyone. I mean, how quickly does it go once you step into that management role? Obviously, you picked the team, but you've not only picked the team, you've not picked the team, right? And so there's those that you haven't selected, and so is there a bit of, is that where the separation sort of felt real, where you kind of went where I'm the captain and of course everyone's going to like me, so now I'm the manager and more than half the team you're not picking on a weekly basis? Like, how was that for you, and was that mentally draining?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's that initial period, that 13 games I had, it was quite easy because it was like everyone understood the situation. We all, even myself, were still thinking that their manager was going to be appointed at some point, before the end of the season or even at the end of that season. So we didn't think it was anything permanent. So it was actually quite easy then, because the players, I'd explained it, they understood the situation. So I made decisions on teams and I was leaving players out. There wasn't too much of a problem. The shift came when now you're the permanent manager. That's when the real difficulty starts. And you're right. I've always said it, that job at Swansea will always be my hardest job, just because of the emotional connection with everything. I've been there for 10 years at that point. I knew players intimately, and those relationships. And then, I'm making decisions on those guys and leaving them out at certain times. It was so difficult. I think the one thing that I was always, and I probably learned it as a player when I had those situations where I had to go and speak to the manager, was I've been with managers that were dishonest, tried to pull the wool over your eyes when you're trying to, being told those type of decisions, didn't like it. I always respected the ones that were very honest and straight, even if it was news I didn't want to hear as a player. So I always made sure and promised myself that if I ever got into a position where, now I'm the one making decisions on players, that the key is to be very straight, very honest. I think even if it's news that they don't want to hear, they might show you how disappointed they are to your face and in front of you. But when they go home at night, I think ultimately they respect the fact that you told them the truth, that you haven't tried to cajole them or manipulate the situation. And another important part, what I learned, is a technique of, I would always name the team the day before the game.
Right.
And then the rule was, I said made it very clear to the players, you have 24 hours from this point when I name the team to be disappointed, to be fuming at me, to be angry at me or angry at your situation. But come 24 hours time, when we're back in now for the start of the game that next day and we're meeting up, everything is for the team. That disappointment is gone. You have to put a stop to it. So I always thought that worked pretty well overall. Yeah. And then when the game's finished, that next 24 hours, you can come and see me and we can talk through any disgruntlement or anything that you're not happy about. So 24 hours before, you can be angry with me, but I don't want to speak about it. The 24 hours of the game, the day of the game, everything's about the team. And then the 24 hours after that is where you can come and speak to me and we can talk about things. So trying to do it like that, and then that
compartmentalize it a bit,
So that, I thought that worked pretty well, and it helped you as a coach dealing with those situations.
So I think so many players, it seems, professional players, fancy themselves as managers, right? And as I'm sure you've experienced, you've lived, it's not the same, is it? Right? So many players are thinking, I could do that job and I can step into it. But to talk to me a little bit about what it was like. Obviously, you'd come up through the Swansea system. You'd play there, as you said, for 10 years. You've been a part of that environment. Everyone knew you. What about when you went outside that environment? Did you feel like, that's it, I can now be viewed as not Garry Monk, the captain, Garry Monk, who's done this as a player. I can now be viewed as a manager in my own right.
Yeah.
Was that refreshing? Did you enjoy that a little bit more? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great question, Adrian, because I think you're right. You're 100% right. Like I said to you, that emotional connection, playing and managing the same club that you've been at for such a period of time was emotionally so fulfilling, but draining at the same time. And like you said, a lot of those players in that and staff knew me as something different before as a player.
Yeah. And
now then something different as a coach. So you're right. I couldn't wait when I obviously, unfortunately, left Swansea. Not that you ever want to leave a role like that, and lose your job. But I couldn't wait to go to a new environment where those players don't know me as anything else other than what I'm going to be coming in as. And that was refreshing. it was good. It was like that new lease of life, and being able to go in there and sometimes make hard, when you're making those harsh decisions, whether that's retaining players or letting players go, move on, selling, whatever it may be. It was refreshing knowing that they don't know me anything else but as the head coach or the manager, whatever you want to call it. So much different to Swansea, much different experience, and much more liberating, should we say, but still hugely difficult. Still having to learn and understand why I'm making these decisions and how I've gone about it. But yeah, since that point of leaving Swansea, it's been much easier in terms of how I've presented myself straight away in front of a group.
Yeah, so I mean, if you put on your coach education hat for a minute, right, and you think like about Soccer Profile and some of those things and some of the insights into the pro game, if you're thinking about advice for coaches that are looking to work at that level, thinking about, mentally, emotionally, what sort of preparatory work do they have to do before they take a role? And sort of the second piece to this question is, what advice are you giving to people, players, pro players, wherever they may be, whether it's in their environment where they were a professional or in environments external? What advice are you giving them heading into it? Like, what are sort of pitfalls to be aware of, or certain things they definitely should remember before they take on their first journey?
Yeah, you're right. And, part of the work I do now, which is, obviously like we're all involved and we're all passionate about in terms of that coach education, helping the future coaches of the game prepare for their journey in the coaching world, whether that be from grassroots all the way up to professional, whatever level they're at. Is you're right. That's why obviously the Coaches Hub with Soccer Profile, a lot of things like we're talking about today. For example, I did a presentation yesterday, which is on the Coaches Hub, which is a clear blueprint about that transition from player to manager. But also, if you're a coach at one level and you're trying to go to the next level, whatever that looks like for you, just a blueprint on advice and organization and things that you need, for example, is on there. So that's why the Coaches Hub is there. But again, from a personal point of view, there's so many things that you can advise a coach, but you probably have to break it out. The thing I would say is probably the most important bit is first the opportunity that you're going to. So I've made a couple of mistakes in my career where visually the opportunity in front of you is better, but whether that's monetary or that's status or that's level, whichever that may be, all of us will be in a situation at some point where that looks great to us. And it is from those perspectives. But I talk about opportunity in terms of a big part of it is timing. So that might look like a good opportunity for those three reasons I mentioned before, but it's really important that when you're looking at that opportunity, you have to see where it's going to be and what it's at. What are the owners or the people that are in charge? What's the period just gone on before? Has it been a really difficult period and now they're ready to go? Great, they're going to invest in it. Or is it's a great opportunity because it's a better level, but they've invested, it's not gone well, and now they're pulling back, and yet you think it's a better opportunity. You're going to go in there, but you're going to have less resource. I always say it's the same. We're saying your timing, what you're looking for is to be the next guy. There's been a few jobs I've gone in where I've picked the wrong timing. I've had to battle through all the we haven't got any money and we haven't got any resource and we can't do this and we can't do that. And then you've basically cleared a lot of the trouble. The squad needs moving around and all that stuff, and you've done all that work, and then you lose your job. And then a few times I've sat there, and then the next guy that's come in, he's been given the budget, he's been given this and that, and you're thinking, oh my God, like, how is that not me? How did I not get that? So that's what I mean by like
it's the timing piece, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I be that guy? Can my timing be the next guy? That's what I mean by the next guy. So really think about the opportunity. It's not just about, because we're all chasing it. We all want to manage or coach at the highest levels we possibly can with the best players we can. Of course, that's an ambition, but it's not just about what that looks like visually, monetary, visually, levels, whatever that may be, status, is really look what's been going on before and see if that is the right time to then go in there where you may be given the support that you actually need to make that successful. So I think that's a really important bit. And then the rest of it is everyone's different. My big thing was about what do players need to see straight away. They need to see efficiency. They need to see organisation. They need to see personality straight away, and also understanding the situation they're in. So yeah, it can be, but again, on that Coaches Hub, there's a lot of resource in there, a lot of advice around this, webinars, e-learning workshops about how you prepare for your next opportunities and those transitions that we're all going to make throughout our career, whether that's up or that's back down or across or sideways. Yeah, hugely important.
Yeah, I mean, it seems the story a bit. Just by the way, Gary, I'm not sure if you're seeing online, but we're getting tons of thumbs up from that little anecdote you shared. So I think it really resonates with people just around that and the movement between. And maybe what stuck out to me is things aren't always as what it seems, right in front of you. You need to look a little bit deeper. I mean, that said, I need to ask. I mean, the teams that are wildly successful, right, in the season past, and they're doing well and they're winning matches, they don't often turn over managers, do they? Right. So the jobs that are available are going to be the ones that are going to have those deficiencies, are going to have those budgetary constraints, are going to have those sort of fires in the dressing room, all these kinds of things. And really leading into my next question around how much is it around you and what your decisions you're making week to week in the environments where you've been successful, and how much is it about you and how much is it about the culture that you've built and then just kind of letting it go, and how do you balance that? So it's like, is it really about those decisions, if I should have started him instead of him and that's cost you the 3 points, or is it about you've built the culture and just letting the machine do its work?
Yeah, well, I look at it as let's take match day, for example, any single match day. I look at it as if we did a circle, we did a pie chart. I look at it as in 90% of our chances of winning a game, or the result, which whether we win, lose or draw, 90% of it is in our preparation. 10% of it is in our game day management, how we manage that game day. So think about that, right? 90% of it is all about preparation.
90 and 10, you put that much stock into it. Yeah.
My belief and quite a lot of coaches, that belief, we think as coaches, like that game day comes, we can really affect it. Of course we can do things, but ultimately what wins you get, or what defines the result, is actually the preparation that's gone into it. Right. So if that tells that story, then what do we need to do as coaches? So we need to have really good preparation. What does good preparation look like? Yeah, we can have great tactics, we can do great training sessions, we can do practice designs, all of those things. But what makes those practices run well? Good coaching, of course, yeah. But what makes good coaching and that environment go well? It's the environment. So what we need to do as coaches, our first point of call is identify what the environment is as it stands. Ultimately, like you said, we're going into difficult situations. Not many jobs are being given where you're taking over a successful team. Occasionally, where you can take over success, great. We saw a good example of that recently at Celtic. So they had won 7 out of the previous 8 games, and then obviously Wilfred Nancy had made his move across from Columbus Crew to Celtic. I think personally, so that's an opportunity, taking over a team that's in good form, doing well. That doesn't happen very often.
Those are applications for that job, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. But I think the mistake that was making, I think there's 2 mistakes there. One from the club in terms of the timing of the appointment. I don't think there was a need to do that, because they were having momentum. They got a cup final that week. But I also think as well for Wilfred, who's obviously a fantastic coach, is the understanding of what he was going into. You're going into a club up there in Scotland. There's 2 clubs in Scotland that must win every single game, every single week. That's the demand. Process and philosophy and all that side of it doesn't count there. You only get that over a period of time. So I think he misunderstood that a little bit, where he was talking about processes and we're going to, take time. It will take time for the player. Of course, we all know, he knows that, players that, but you cannot communicate that to the wider media, to the players themselves. It's about winning at those type of situations. So there's a situation there, but most of the time, like you said, we take over situations where it isn't good. So if I'm honest with you, a lot of times, if it isn't good, it's actually easier to talk about culture and environment with those people, because pretty much they'll be broken, like that environment is broken somewhere. That's the reason why they're not being successful. That's why they are struggling. That's why I'm coming into a situation which is difficult. It's actually easier in that moment, done in the right way and communicated in the right way and facilitated with players and staff and the club itself, is you can put things in place very, very quickly, easy wins, where what we're talking about environment is about standards. Right. Environment is about how players feel. It's not about what I feel. Like, we all know what a high performance, good environment looks like, but how do we get to it? It's not about me telling you how to get to it and making a demand for it. It's they've got to feel like they're the ones creating it. So we have to facilitate as coaches, even though we know what we want to get to, because we know it looks good. It's how do we facilitate the people that are participating?
Yeah, sounds like you almost relish it, where you walk in sometimes and you think like,
Yeah.
all right, it's broken, so I get to build it from scratch. Am I correct in saying that? Is that the attitude you adopt? Yeah.
Well, you can just you can be so effective when it's like human nature. When things are going bad, like everyone goes, oh yeah, you've lost, like people, we've seen it before, they've lost the change room and these players don't care and this and that. Trust me, any professional I've ever met, they care. They want to win.
Yeah. That's why they're professional athletes, aren't they?
Yeah. There's a reason why they got to the professional levels, because they want to win. And because they're obviously good players, but they want to win. Do you know what I mean? And it's like they're not purposely losing, but what happens is over a period of time where you're not successful, like attitudes wane, do you know what I mean? Go by the wayside, you know, that extra level of physicality that you need, or the extra run you need, and that attitude to run and effort and all those things start to decrease because they're becoming disillusioned, or they're losing faith in the environment they're in. So what do we need to do? We need to maintain the best possible environment. The only way you achieve that is by the inclusion of them, like their thoughts, being vulnerable, where you facilitate in communication amongst each other, and really just asking them the truth. What is it you want? So they're all going to say, yeah, we want to get out of this situation. Okay, how are we going to do that? Okay, we need to win games and we need to like know what we're doing when we're playing. Okay, I can give you that. But what's the real thing that's going to make sure, that we can play as well as we can, achieve those things, play the way we want to play that you're asking for? What is it? Well, it's going to be down to our attitude, how hard we work, how good we are together, how much spirit, how much character we have. Okay, well then let's build that. How do we build it? Okay, training ground environments, how we live off the field, on the field. Every day we're together, because most of the time at professional levels, you're with each other for 10 months, 11 months of the year. Yeah. It's pretty much your family. You see in that environment, you see each other more than you actually see your own family.
You're speaking about that 90%, right? That 90% preparation on that pie chart, and all those things go into it.
So yeah, creating that environment from a broken situation is probably easier than going into a good environment that's already set there, because you're probably in danger of affecting it. Do you understand what I mean? You're probably more worried about a good environment because you're thinking, oh God, I don't want to do something wrong here or make a mistake that actually lessens it and be the one that breaks it. Whereas if it's broken already, what's the easiest thing to do? Help that situation. Like most people, human nature is you want to be helped. You don't want to be in a broken situation. We talked about Man United for the last 2, 3, 4 years. All the players that have ever been there, they don't want to be in that situation. They don't want to be suffering, and I know that's one of the highest levels and with the limelight on it, but they don't want to be in that situation, but they just haven't figured a way out of making sure that environment is as high as possible, high performing as possible.
I love that you're bringing this positive spin to it, right? It's almost you're looking at this as a burning building, thinking, no, it's all right. You know, we're going to fix this, right? And that's exactly what good managers do. And being thrust into those environments that you have been over your career, it's great examples, right? And so I really appreciate the insight there. Changing gears a little bit, just a bit of reflection for you, Garry. You know, if you had to think about all your experiences so far, can you share an example of a difficult leadership decision that you've had to make and what you took from it?
Yeah, it's a good one. That gets tests all the time. I guess I'll probably go back to like I said, the hardest job I ever had and will ever have was the Swansea, because I'm transitioning. Like I said to you, they all know me, or half of the group knew me, new players come in. I suppose, again, timing, I had to make decisions on players' futures where we were best mates. You know, just in really unlucky for me at timing where some of those players were coming towards the end of their careers, and quite rightly the club itself are wanting to progress younger players, recruit younger players, to take over the mantle of some of these players that were being great servants. And can you imagine? So it'd be like me and you, Adrian. We played for the last 10 years together. Okay, we have a great relationship, formed strong bonds. We've had our families have mixed together. We've had nights out. We've had holidays. All these things. Okay, and then all of a sudden, I'm now your boss, and I'm telling you that this player's coming in to take your place because I feel like maybe your legs are going a little bit, so you're not going to be the main starter anymore, and you now have to help this player progress in front of you, a younger player. That's a difficult situation to be in. And I guess some of them I handled well. Again, I was always honest with them, and some of them weren't handled so well. So that was a real learning process for me where, like, it was the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, hardest conversations I've ever had to make. And like you said, they've become a little bit easier since I've obviously when I left there, because it's with, like you said, the perception of me to players that I'm dealing with and staff that I'm dealing with who don't know me anything else. But yeah, that's one example where it was really difficult. But the same theme all the way through, whatever tough decision I ever have to make is try and be really concise. So I don't beat around the bush. I'm not thinking of ways I can get out of this or come out of here unscathed, but also I'm also really making sure that I show the right empathy as well and say it in the right way. It's not just about being concise and harsh, but it's being concise to the point but showing empathy at the same time, understanding their situation. I think what's good for me is that I can relate to a lot of players where I've been in their situation.
Right.
And I understand how it feels, so I can empathize with that. But I still have to tell you this, and whether we both agree or we like it enough, like, of course, that's part of the journey. But even though I've made that decision, the ongoing part of that is I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get back through this, or I'm going to try and make this as good as possible for you, even if it was like you exiting from the situation or you're exiting a player out of the club. It's like, I think overall, in the end, they appreciate that and respect it. Whether they like it is a totally different thing.
Yeah, no, it's valuable, and I can only imagine what a difficult position you would be in, trying to straddling those two lanes and trying to manage those. It's all good to say it's all business and to separate business from personal, but it bleeds into one another, doesn't it? Right, and and that's the reality of it. So navigating that, some fantastic advice there. So thinking about player development, because a lot of us, myself included, work in the youth game, right? And I'm sure a lot of our viewers from all over the world, so many people there at the convention in Philadelphia, we're working in the youth circuit and looking about player development. And some people may not know, I mean, in your role as first team manager, you've played a very substantial role in the promotion of players who are now world superstars. You've seen them in the academy system when they were just kind of breaking onto the scene. I think you had some interaction with Jude as well. Jude Bellingham, he was in your system, wasn't he? Yeah, when you were in charge there. So how do you balance that? Like, when you're in those roles, whether it be the 23s, whether it be the first team, how do you balance first team results with developing young talent and providing a platform and sort of an avenue for the stars of tomorrow to develop?
Yeah, look, I've been a big advocate of young players, even though I'm in an environment where we have to win, the pressure to win. But I'm a big believer of, like, if we have these youth systems, if I'm at a club, for example, and it has a youth system in place, then it's my duty as a head coach to show them that there's a pathway. Otherwise, what's the point of the club having the academy? And it's never been phased at all about using young players. Of course, they have to be good enough. They have to have earned it. But what I try and do is make sure they have an opportunity to show that they can do that. So, like, for instance, every club I've ever been at, one of the first things I do is speak to the youth departments, ask them around, like, what players are in it, because I'll go into an environment, I won't know what the youth players are. I probably haven't seen most of them, if any. But trust their idea. They've been with these kids for a long time, coming through these academies and stuff like that. Is like, okay, what's your opinion? Often I'll go, who's your best six players? Who would you rank the best of 6? Because I want them to come straight with me. Let me have a look at them straight away. Training with the first team in that environment, being exposed to it, and then every now and then within those 6 or 7, players, and of course, the longevity of that is other players that have earned it. I always say, any player that you think in the youth team you think's earned it or had a good week or a good couple of weeks or a good month, we promote them, let them have an experience. But going back to the point is, every now and then you'll see 1 or 2 in that group that you just know as a coach that they have something, and it might not be the finished article, because often it isn't, because they're young, but you have that feeling of, especially mentally. So, for example, like you're saying there, when I was at Birmingham, the club were worried about Jude not extending, or I think it was signing his scholarship. So they asked me if he could come and train with the first team a few times to give him that experience, and probably trying to woo him into signing for the club, because they were worried they were going to lose him. So he was only 15, I think he was at the time. Came in his school uniform, got changed. I think it was only 2 or 3 sessions that I had with him before I left the club. But like, that was like him. But the thing I noticed in front as an example was, it wasn't so much his ability with the ball and his technique. Obviously, he's a very good player, but it wasn't that I noticed that was hugely different to players that were, senior players that he was training with. It was his mentality. His mentality where, imagine a 15-year-old and he's telling a 35-year-old, give me the ball. And basically telling off the 35-year-old for not giving him the ball. You don't see that very often. Normally you see them very quiet coming into the first team environment, even if they're a bit older coming in.
Is that what happened? Is that definitely what happened?
Just very demanding, and like you could see his mentality was way beyond his age, like in terms of, and that was the bit I remember we were nudging each other as a coaching staff going, wow, you won't often see a 15-year-old come into a men's environment, just fresh out of his school uniform and basically telling off senior professionals for not passing the ball right or giving him the ball and making that demand on them. So yeah, very special in that sense. But and then flip it around, like every club I've been at, I think I've number of debuts for young players, not just for the sake of it, because they've earned it and I believe in it. But I tell you what, as a coach, for every win I've ever had, for that feeling of winning, that we're all competitive, we want to win, for every good moment, there is no better satisfaction, and this is my belief for me, there's no better satisfaction as a coach than when a young player makes his debut, because that's a day that he's never going to forget his whole life for the rest of his career. And then when you see his family afterwards or during, where the amount that they're proud and his face, and hopefully the debut goes well. That's what you're praying for them. But the majority have gone well. And then you see the family afterwards. For me, there's no bigger satisfaction as a coach as like you've just given him an experience or her an experience that will stick with them for the rest of their lives. And then, of course,
does part of that come from yourself as a player? I mean, because you're a product of the academy system yourself, aren't you? Right?
Yeah. Not quite like the academies now. It was a little bit different back in the dark ages when I came through. But like, no, you're right. What was really important for me as a young player was being able to see a pathway. So I was lucky at Torquay United. We were the League Two, as you'd see now. So it was Division 4 at the time in England. And there wasn't the academy like under 8s, under 9s, 10s, 11, 12s. It was just literally the youth team, the under 18s. So you 16 to 18, two age groups together was what the academy was. But I got popped into there, so we were very close to the first team. It's a very tiny club, so I got into the first team, signed for the club youth team wise, and then managed to get into the first team at 16 years old. I made my professional debut at 16. Then I moved to Southampton, and what was really clear at Southampton was you could see the pathway. You could see the first team. You were training with them at certain times if you'd done well enough. So having gone through all that experience and then gone on to have my career, I always, like I said, thought young players should be able to feel and see and make it tangible, where I can get over there. You might be on the pitch next door, or you might be on the pitch 4 times over, but you can see them, you can feel them. Do you know what I mean? And then my job as a head coach is to tell the academy, you do have a path. I will give opportunities if they're good enough, and if they've earned it, and if it's the right timing. Okay, so yeah, just a believer in it. Not everyone is. Some managers are like, at all costs, it has to be wins, and I'm not going to risk putting that young lad in there. But really, I look at this and I want to promote youth. I want to get there, but also because I'll put a player in because I think he can help me win.
I'll flip around on you and say, have you ever regretted it? Have they ever cost you? Have you ever been like, I shouldn't have invested in youth, or has it always kind of paid dividends?
No, I don't think I've ever been let down by a young player. I'm not saying they haven't made mistakes and maybe cost a goal here and there and possibly a result here and there in terms of the individual. But on the grand scheme of it, I don't think they've ever let me down. If I go back through all the debuts that I've given, the majority of them, I'd say 95% of them have gone and kicked on, still playing now, having good careers, gone on to better things. So was my judgment right? Yeah. I feel proud. I feel proud that my judgment was right. A lot of thanks
to you as well, right, for doing that, for giving them the debut. Maybe
somebody else. Not all down to me, down to the academy staff that have brought them to that level. All really for me was giving them an opportunity, and helping them in that first team environment and adapt to it. And that's not just down to me. That's down to staff. It's down to the players that they're playing with as well. But the real key is for me is them having that opportunity. Yeah, it's my decision to give them that opportunity, but then it's for them to take it. So the credits to them. It's just really proud that I can give them that opportunity. And like I said, I look back at all the day. I see them now. I see them all still playing. I see them, majority of them having gone on, kicked on, having really good, successful careers. So yeah, fantastic, amazing.
Yeah, so I think, Garry, fantastic. Like you as a coach, and people will think this is Garry, and then this is how he is. Is that true for everyone though? Do you treat all your players the same, or do you show different sides? I mean, when you think about man management, or when I think of man management, you have people with certain personalities, some with others. Are you the same coach to each of them, or do you tailor your approach specifically depending on who you're working with?
I think we have to remember as coaches now, especially nowadays where so much data, so much things around philosophy and processes, and we've got AI coming now, haven't we? Well, it's here, and how that's going to change the game in the next 5 to 6 years, especially as coaches for our processes and stuff, and automating things and everything like that. Okay, is we have to really remember as coaches, and the most important bit. And I hope in 50 years' time, when I'm not around, but I like to think in 50 years' time, people still remember that this is a human game, and as humans, we have feelings, and that we coach with feel, that it doesn't become too robotic, and that it's a real human connection that really makes this game the special game that we all love. So everyone's individual, everyone's different, but it's the biggest job of us as coaches is connecting with them individually, an emotional connection with them. So how that looks is different for different coaches, but I think we have to understand the human side of them. So for example, it's like, you go and take a job, right? And the first thing you're thinking is, right, I need to go and set the standard. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to be, I wouldn't say forceful, but you're trying to set a standard and like everything like that. First player turns up, your very first meeting, late. What do you do? Most will react and, be offended by that situation. Or your first training session, they're late out onto the field. Okay. What will we be as coaches? Most of us offended by that situation, see it as a lack of respect. But I look at it as no, my job is to work with that individual. My job is to go. So what I do in those situations, especially early on, okay, when I go and take that new role is, no, what I do is I let that go. Okay. We carry on with a session. At the end of the session or away from that session, okay, I'll go and speak with the player. Because maybe what I didn't know, I could have gone and made my stance in front of the whole group about lateness and stuff like that. No, my job is to show empathy and understand players and get to that human side. Because what I might not have known is he had woke up that morning, he's had a massive argument with his wife, he's not feeling great, or he's ill, or something's going on in the background, in the back of his mind, where he's not meaning it disrespectful, but his focus is elsewhere. But if I don't treat that player like that, or try and really gain that relationship and that trust, then I'm never gonna, if they're just doing actions that we don't agree with, and we're just making rules and we're just making judgments, then we're not doing our job. So our job is to really put effort into that relationship individually, understand how they work, understand what they need from us. So if he needs to be late for the next 3 or 4 weeks, okay, because that's the way he's working, that's where he's at mentally, then I need to show empathy and be able to do that. But if I'm allowing you that, generally when you're giving them something, then you can demand something back. Okay, I'm going to let you be late, but when it comes to when you are on the training ground, I need everything you got. And generally when you make that bargain with each other, they feel they're getting something from you, then they'll give you something back. So it's just been little things, little tricks like that. But I always feel like, this is a really good quote, players won't always remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing truer than that. I think
it's true of life in general, even outside of players, right?
Yeah.
Just connections based, but yeah.
So what have we got to do as coaches? It's not just about our detail and how we go about it and our processes and everything like that. It's about how we make them feel on a daily basis. And that's not just collectively, but that's individual as well. So we try and put a lot of effort into understanding them individually, as well as collectively. And then once you have that understanding, that's when you can make better decisions with players.
Almost you're a bit of a psychologist as a coach, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm trying to hypnotize you here.
Yeah, that's it, man. It's working. I think that well covers it. Just before we move on from this sort of individual coaching, player development standpoint, we spoke about player debuts. We have a question that's come in the chat, just from our very own John De Benedictis. Would you say that you're more likely to give a young kid a debut if they are strikers as opposed to any other position. I think he's referring to, you know, the likes of Lamine Yamal, Antonio Areno just last week at Roma. Is it easier higher up the pitch? Do you think like, I can't risk it at the back? Does that play into the mind?
Yeah, I can understand that question. And in a sense, it's a little bit right, because you can protect them more the further they're up. Yeah. So if they do make mistakes further up the pitch, often there's still time to stop it from a goal that's conceding. But also at the same time, you can put them in a position where they're not quite ready and they miss 2-3 chances and then they don't recover from that. But positionally, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
I never cared. I've given debuts to defenders, midfielders, wingers, strikers,
goalkeepers.
It's just more about, are they ready? Are they good enough? Do they deserve this opportunity? And no matter where they are, and of course, is there an opening that you need? There can be, for example, there can be a really good midfielder that's ready, a young player, about to make debut, whatever. He's ready for it. But you know what? The 2 players in front of him are playing well. They're pros. You know what I mean? They're senior players, but they're playing really well. Okay, he's going to have to wait a little bit. It's not just giving it for the sake of it. But what I would do there is probably filter that in. You know, maybe give him those 10 minutes at the end. You know, when the game's in a situation that feels comfortable for him, and giving them experience and start to build it up that way, where you can experience it. It's not always full debuts.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to. Some players can handle full debuts. Okay, but some players need to be bled in. You know, like 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here, and then you build that up. Okay, it's a half. Oh, now it's 90 minutes. So it depends on the player and their characteristics and where you're at.
It's a great point. It's a nuance, right? It doesn't just mean just throw them out. Yeah, but integrating them slowly. Thanks for that. I think that's a good segue into the sort of tactical portion of today's meeting, really, where we can talk about how has your tactical philosophy evolved, if at all, from the time when you were a player. As I know, you were a center back, right? You played in that, so I know a lot of center backs fancy themselves in terms of tacticians, you know, playing out of the back and all the rest. Did that translate into your coaching, and how has your tactical philosophy evolved? And now that you're like, I'm actually a coach, so I'm going to be a little more conservative than maybe I thought I was as a player. But I'll leave it to you. Yeah,
it's a good question. I always feel like we're all romantic in the way of like how we view football. We all have our ideal way of playing. Like if we could have everything that we wanted, how we want our team, we'd all know it. We could all recite it. And of course, the majority of us want to play. What would we say? We all want to play the game where we're building up from the back, we're playing through the thirds, we're fast, we're aggressive, we're getting to attacks, and we're an aggressive front-footed team, etc., etc. We're exciting to watch, we dominate, we instant press. When we lose the ball, we win it back, and then we attack again. I think all of us feel like that. And of course, I played in a team which we were a lot like that at Swansea. But I think what I learned over a period of time now is, like, for me, what is good management? Like, great if I could get to that situation and that team, but often we're going to go into situations where simply players can't play like that. They can't play our idealistic way. So I believe good management in any walk of life, not just in sport, football, soccer, or business, is being adaptable. I think we have to be really adaptable as coaches. I think we have to tailor ourselves to the group that we have in any given moment in time. So if we go into a situation like Birmingham's a good example, I wanted to play that romantic way. I've been doing it at Swansea to a degree. Leeds, we were probably a hybrid of it, but not quite as good as it was at Swansea. But Birmingham was totally different. The characteristics of the squad were counter-attack, be defensive, because that suited our squad, the strengths of the squad. And then we have players that could counter-attack really quick. So a totally different way of playing. For me, that's good management, especially going into a situation where we're facing relegation. And we've got 11 games to go. We have to win games. I looked at that and thought, that's our best way of winning games and scoring goals. So for me, that's good management. And that's not blowing my own horn or anything like that. I just thought that's what we should be. That's the first time it really taught me I've got to be able to adapt. I've got to show my team can adapt and maybe play in different ways. And yeah, sometimes we'll be really aggressive pressing, but other times we'll be sat off and then we'll be counter-attacking. So you've got to tailor yourself. I think best management is tailoring yourself to the squad that you have, and not asking them to do anything that they're not capable of doing. I think that's really important.
Well, it sounds like your tactical sort of philosophy is adaptability, right? And in and of itself. So as much as we're all romantics and have our ideas of idealisms for the way we should play football, I think adaptability is king. And I would tend to agree with you. So kudos to you for that. So let's talk a little bit about tactical trends and how important they are to the modern coach and the up and coming coach. We're thinking of things like inverted fullbacks. We're thinking about, as you already alluded to, counter pressing. You're thinking about, some of these buzzwords, if you will. How important is it for young coaches that are developing, working in the youth system, to be on top of these trends, implementing them in the sort of 17 and below realm? Important, not important? What are your thoughts?
No, I think loads of people are going to go with trends. Do you know what I mean? It's actually quite interesting at the moment in the Premier League in England. I think what we're seeing is actually, we've seen since probably 2008, Pep has changed the dynamic of football, influenced thousands of young, millions of young coaches, and quite rightly amazing, like what he's done with the teams he's had and possession-based styles and the great. But you're even seeing now, it's been interesting this year. I look at Arsenal, I even look at Man City at times. But all those top teams, like, changing at the right time. Look at Arsenal, direct at certain times, long throw-ins, set pieces, everything that was frowned upon under Sam Allardyce at Bolton, where he was told he's an old school manager and too set piece based and everything like that, because it wasn't what we called sexy football. But you're seeing it. But the thing I look at that is like, that is them playing to their strengths. So they play nice football as well, but I just think it's a great example of being adaptable, not just on trend, not just doing what's trendy. It's about what the strength of the team is, which is they can play possession based. They do. But there's certain times in matches and games that they play where they can be really direct and aggressive and front footed like that, using set plays, using long throw-ins. I think it's really interesting what we're seeing now. I think what we're going to see as well is, like, everyone's sort of playing with those inverted wingers, like a left footer on the right and a right footer on the left, and cutting in, getting shots and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I think we'll see in a certain period of time of what we call the old-fashioned wingers, right footers. Remember Giggs and Beckham for Man United?
Yeah.
Quality crosses coming into the boxes from different angles, different lengths away from the goal and everything like that. I think we're going to see loads of changes coming, and everyone will be on trends. I think for young youth coaches, what should we be doing? We should be teaching our players, if the game needs to be adaptable, then why are we not coaching adaptable? I get like there's a game model and everything like that, and we follow that, try and put that game model in place where we're following. But within that, we're trying to teach players to be adaptable. Can you play on the front foot, pressing and being aggressive? Can you also play where you've got to be defensive and wait for the right moment to go and counter attack? Can you play this position, that position at certain ages? I think we need to be very flexible in our coaching and prepare. What are we trying to do with young players? We're trying to prepare them for the demands of the game, aren't we?
Yeah.
And the higher they go up, the more demanding it becomes. So if we're trying to prepare, that's ultimately what we're trying to do with youth players, is prepare them for the future game that's coming for them. So we have to prepare them to be adaptable. That's something, because we don't know where they're going to end up. We might have trained them to be a real possession-based team and possession-based player, but then they get signed by a really defensive, counter-attacking coach. Do you know what I mean? And they've not experienced that. We have to expose them to as many, variations, but within the structure that where you're working, within the philosophy of where you're working.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in it, isn't there? And it's incredible to see sort of the trends and the way things have gone, and just how drastic the shifts, right? And you're exactly right about Pep. I mean, it's influenced all corners of the globe, right, in terms of what he's done. And now we're seeing a departure from that. So I'm really watching with a keen eye, and it's really fascinating to me. I think what the constant theme really is about, at least for me, coming out of this conversation, Garry, is about adaptability and about continuous learning, right? And so, like, how do you keep developing yourself as a coach and leader? Is it simply signing up for your badges? I mean, once you've done all your badges, like, you just go to a seminar here and there. Maybe it's exactly what you guys are doing at Soccer Profile with the Coaches Hub, right? And just staying on top and thinking about the game in different ways, getting different opinions. I mean, to me, it seems vastly important. I'm sure you would agree. What are some ways that coaches can continue to stay engaged, and what sort of material should they be looking at in order to stay on the sort of cutting edge, right?
Yeah, I think what I try and do is identify my weaknesses. and then I try and upskill myself on my weaknesses. And of course, I don't neglect my strengths. I still keep on top of my strengths to see if I can get my strength that I have in whatever area that is, what I think is a strength. I list them, but I try and make it a super strength. Can I get it to the super strength side? And so you're always striving for that. But I really try and identify my weaknesses. That's what I want to learn. That's what I want to know about. And then I go and seek that resource. Now that can be through just conversations. It can be through online resources. It can be at like coaching conventions like we are here today in Philadelphia. Different, there might be, I already know there's been a couple where I really wanted to go and see them. Do you know what I mean? And go and watch them, like different topics that relate to maybe one of my weaknesses. So I'm just constant first for like that self-improvement, but making sure it's specific, not just generalized. It's really specific. So I always recommend to coaches, being really honest with ourselves, understanding we all have strengths and weaknesses, and really listing them out of what are they, be real specific with them. And then I go and seek that resource, wherever that may be.
So speaking specifically, I mean, is that why you created the Coaches Hub? Like, tell us a little bit about that, and what gaps were you trying to address sort of in the market?
Yeah, I think it was like a release for me. It's a way of getting my frustrations and my, when you feel like you got a lot to give. I think that's how it originally started, and like a lot of expertise pent up, and then also very lucky where my network of friends that are coaches at high levels and different departments and everything like that. How can I share that with everyone? Because I guess my thought process was, I've been in the professional game my whole life. The one thing I didn't like about it was, especially at the coaching level, was the unwillingness to share. And I get it. We all understand it. The reason why these organizations don't share is because it's a competitive edge. We all think our program's better than your program, so we're gonna keep that secret, and we've got the secret recipe and blah blah blah. It always frustrated me that outside of the professional environments, like coaches, players, etc., why can they not still? Okay, they're not in that environment, and yes, they might be of a less of ability of the people that are currently in those environments, players and coaches, but why can't have the same access to the resources, have the same experience, deliver the same sessions, players have that experience as well at the same time, and have access to that type of understanding. And that's where the Coaches Hub is really designed for, is to give coaches an insight into that high level of resource, whether that's webinars, whether that's e-learning workshops, whether that's blogs, whether that's curriculums, planners, session builders, whatever it may be. Everything that we have on there is giving the coaches access to something that they might not get access to elsewhere, and try and promote that further learning, that further education. And then obviously, us as well, like in terms of Soccer Profile, we want that personal touch where we want to come out, we want to help you understand where you're at. But that online source is a fantastic one for coaches, and yeah, it's growing all the time. It's been fantastic. We've had a lot of coaches joining us in that community that we've got on there, and yeah, really just trying to support the coaches of the future. That's my main aim. I'm really passionate about it. Really want,
and it's developing all the time with your network and people.
Yeah,
it's developing all the time with people coming and contributing more content.
Yeah,
to it. I mean, as a coach who just wants to get on the grass apart from the theory side, the practical side, am I going to be able to go there and get session plans? Am I going to be able to become a better coach from those, like, actual application side? Yeah,
session planners and curriculums and processes and everything like that. And what we've really concentrated on for the coaches is not just about coaching points. So here's a session, like whatever topic, whatever you're focused on, being able to put that together for yourself, but not just about there's the session. It's about, well, why am I doing that session? The key is why. As a coach, we have to understand why on everything. So what are we teaching players? Often most coaches will teach what we're doing and how we're going to do it. But what they tend to neglect is why they're doing it.
Right.
So what we want to do is make sure that coaches understand the why, because most coaches will know what to do and how to do it, but they won't really communicate to their players why they're doing it. So we focus quite heavily on the process, the coaching process, not just here's the session, here's how you do it. In terms of the coaching points, we try and focus on the process, which is the why as a coach. And then what we're trying to do with that process is that's the bit that we're trying to put onto our players, so they understand why we're doing it, not just what and how they're doing. So I think that's all in there. And we encourage coaches to come on. And like I said, everything's constantly going on there. It's growing, it's becoming bigger. There's a lot of content on there already, but that just grows by the day. And yeah, we're really proud of it. And I'm really proud to try and help coaches of the future.
No, thank you for that. And I think it's probably about time to make our little announcement on behalf of NSCAC and the new partnership that we formed with Soccer Profile. So, beginning almost effective immediately following the convention, all new signups with NSCAC will have a free subscription to Soccer Profile. So all of those great assets, features, tons of detail, and all the session planners, all the rest will be accessible to NSCAC members. Right. So, as I said at the top of the meeting, a fantastic value to join an association like ours, to be able to get curated content from yourselves and among all of the other benefits that we have. So I know that on behalf of NSCAC, I'd like to say thank you. And we're very proud to have partnered with you and be able to deliver this high quality programming to the coaches of today, the coaches of tomorrow. Right. So a very warm and thank you.
No, it's a real privilege for us to be associated with you guys at the NSCAC, and obviously John and everyone behind the scenes, all you guys that work incredibly hard. And it's been a few years now since I remember when we came out to Canada and we first got talking with you guys and could see the hard work behind the scenes that you guys really trying to do for your coaching community. And we just want to be part of it. We want to be able to support that. And like you said, being able to offer free subscriptions to your members, is a fantastic for us, but it's fantastic for them and fantastic for the organization. It just adds that extra added value for your organization and for us to try and get that community growing all the time, and just really encourage coaches to, just trying to support them, give them extra resource. There may be things on there that they don't want, but there's definitely going to be something on there that they want to use. And we kind of look at, if there's one thing on there that can help a coach, then we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. If there's 10 things on there that they really like, well, there's 10 things there for us, but we just want to try and help affect those coaches. So we're really proud to be joining you guys in that partnership, and we think the work that you're doing is fantastic. And we just, like all of us, we just want to help you and ourselves grow the game.
Well, thank you so much, Gary. I think we're just coming up on the hour. So in terms of closing comments, I'll just ask any advice you could go back and tell your younger self about coaching, and something maybe that some coaches can take away who are, actively in the field and maybe just starting their journey.
Yeah. Number one is remember to enjoy it. And we all have stresses. We all have different things going on in our lives, and every moment it's hard to enjoy the moment. But I'll go back to what I said earlier, I think, which is like really resonated with me when I was younger. And when I first started coaching was, that quote I said where players won't always remember what you said, but they'll definitely remember how you made them feel. And I think that's huge. Remember that. Because I think you're coaching a different way, where we get fed up with players at times. We get frustrated with training sessions that aren't quite going right, and some that go really well. So if it's going really well, we want them to maintain that feeling. So how do we make them feel at the end? How can we get them to come back in the same frame of mind? And then when it hasn't gone right, how do we make them feel to give them belief that the next time we're going to be together, okay, that we're going to make sure that we're going to be able to get it better. So I believe in that. But number one for sure is just enjoy the journey. We don't know where it's going to be. We try and be as planned as we can as coaches, don't we? We all have an ambition, but I think it's just enjoy the moment you're in, give everything to the moment that you're in, and then everything else will take care of itself.
Thank you very much, Gary, again. And we look forward to having you speak soon. All right.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks, pal.
Hi, I'm Garry Monk, former Premier League player and manager. I'm really excited to be able to introduce the Coaches Hub to you. It's a platform that I've created and collaborated with many top professionals to support all coaches of the game at all different levels. With over 30 years of experience, I've witnessed at first hand the importance of quality coaching, education, and access to really good resources. That's why I've collaborated with many top professionals across the game to create the Coaches Hub. It's a place where knowledge and experience and proven practices are shared across the coaching community. The Coaches Hub will allow you access to the Pro Video Library. You'll be able to view sessions from top professional coaches such as Brendan Rodgers, Graham Jones, Chris Davis, just to mention a few, plus many, many more. This will allow you to have really good insight into how they deliver training sessions, how they set up the sessions and plan for those training sessions. We also have our Goalkeeper Pro Video Library, which has elite level practices. And you also have access to a comprehensive age-specific session plan library. This was designed using Premier League Academy curriculums. This ensures you have the right session for every age and stage of your development. In addition, the Coaches Hub offers online webinars and e-learning courses to further your education and development, ranging from topics on and off the pitch from top practitioners, such as creating the right environment or powerful team talks. So whether you're starting your coaching journey or you're already working at an elite level, the Coaches Hub is here to support your development, confidence, and impact on the game. And the best part is, you can have access to all of these world-class resources for as little as $10 a month.